I think the risk reward proposition for Bitcoin in the year 2024 is better than any other time in the history of the asset because you have institutional adoption, you have regulatory clarity, you see capital coming into the space, but Bitcoin's 15 years old. 15 years late is not late, right? The difference between the winners and the losers is the winners buy something valuable and the losers are afraid, right? The losers are afraid to buy the valuable thing because it's too expensive. New York real estate was the most expensive real estate in the United States 300 years late. But it's not too late to buy it because it's still better to buy the thermodynamically sound digital asset, which doesn't have all of the liabilities of real estate, stocks, or bonds. It's still going to go up in value faster than the S&P index. It's still going to be a better after-tax return than owning sovereign debt. It's still going to be better than owning physical property subject to acts of God, force majeure, and all the other physical limitations. So it's still going to be the best investment.
Bitcoin is prone to price volatility, with wide swings to the upside and downside. Bitcoin's value has rallied over the last few quarters, increasing from about $26,000 in mid-September 2023 to an all-time high of around $73,000 in mid-March of this year, 2024. With the occurrence of the halving event, Bitcoin investors are now also anticipating a supply shock shortly, potentially driving up its price to newer all-time highs. Meanwhile, many people who have just discovered Bitcoin wonder if it's simply too late to buy the asset, as it has risen exponentially for the past few years since its inception. MicroStrategy founder and executive chairman, Michael Saylor, speaks up regarding this concern, saying that this year, 2024, is the best time to invest in Bitcoin. With the launch of Bitcoin ETFs and the recent halving event, which reduces the supply of Bitcoin, experts predict that Bitcoin will rise to new highs during this current phase of market growth. As of the making of this video, Bitcoin is priced at approximately $65,000. Saylor predicts that its value will surge in the coming years as more people learn about its potential as a digital asset. Let us now watch Michael Saylor as he shares his bullish stance on Bitcoin long-term. While watching, remember to show your support by liking the video, subscribing to our channel, and hitting the notification bell to stay updated on our future content. Don't forget to stay tuned until the end, when Michael Saylor reveals why he believes 2024 presents the prime opportunity to invest in Bitcoin. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy it.
But the truth is, at many, many points in time, it was a good investment. I think, as I'd said, the real key is to understand what is Bitcoin's use case. It's digital capital. Well, how big is that? $400 trillion? Right? How much capital is locked up in real estate, equity, currency, bonds, collectibles, trophy assets, precious metals in the year 2024? Right? There's probably half the value of most residential real estate is the monetary premium. It's the capital. So people have huge amounts of capital tied up in these idle assets. And there's a lot of reasons for them, but one reason is because they feel like their money is safer there. They knew if they left their money in the bank, it was going to dwindle away. The currency is going to collapse 5 times in 140 years. 5 times, right? Okay, so this is why we want to study history. If you study history, you're going to find that the currency collapsed thousands of times. In fact, on average, it collapses everywhere. It collapses everywhere on average every 50 years in the history of the world. And that's maybe me being charitable. So, is it too late? Well, can you actually take all of your property, put it in your pocket, and leave the country on one-day notice if you need to? If not, then you're probably not too late, right? So if you go through that exercise, you can't take your building with you. You can't take your bars of gold with you. You can't take your stock shares with you. People for a while, they bought paintings thinking I'll roll them up, but it might not be easy to And the average person can't buy Picassos. They're not quite exactly at the price point. How do you buy $237 a Picasso a week, right? So Bitcoin represents digital property. What's the value of digital property? Hundreds of trillions of dollars. Is it overvalued? Not yet. It's $1 trillion right now. So when it's 100 times more valuable than it is right now, will it be overvalued? Not likely. It's probably still going to be appreciating faster than every other thing you can buy. Why? Because it's better than every other thing you can buy. Show me a hotel you can put in your pocket and teleport. Right? $1 billion of gold is like 3,000 pounds, right? How are you going to move that, right? Right? Give me a company that's going to last through the next 3 CEOs, right? Do you know who the 3rd CEO will be after the one that runs the company now? And do you trust that person? Right? The S&P 500, haven't we established there's a 99% failure rate? These are the winners. There's a 99% failure rate to generate shareholder value amongst the 500 best companies in the world. Now, if there's a 99% failure rate amongst the 500 best companies in the world, then what's the failure rate amongst the 100 million companies in the world? And, what's the most successful nation-state currency in the history of the world? Well, if it's the dollar's lost 99.8% of its value in 100 years. Maybe 99.9% of its value. You could debate whether it's 99.8 or 99.9% of its value. Every other currency in every other country lost 100%. So, if you're sitting around wondering, is Bitcoin overvalued? The question is, overvalued versus what? Right? You're going to buy something, right? You're owning something in lieu of Bitcoin. What is that something which is better? Right? That's the real question. Because not selling is buying, but not buying is selling, right? And you've basically got a certain amount of economic energy. It's deployed somewhere, right? And the question is, what are you invested in that you think is better? And I think everybody's got to answer that question themselves. But, like if you owned a football team, like what's the odds that people are still going to watch football in 250 years? And what's the odds that you can put the football team in your pocket and leave the country? Not high, right? I mean, and what's the odds that, you get attacked by, what if there's some law that says that you're liable for the physical damage and the emotional harm to the football players? And, if someone gets hurt playing football, you have to pay $100 million settlement, right? That happens, right? So there are a lot of risks. No matter what you invest in, if you think you don't have risk, you're simply ignorant of the risks you're currently embracing. And I think that once someone understands fully all their range of risk, then your conclusion is, no, it's not too late to buy Bitcoin.
Before we continue with Michael Saylor's powerful insights, here's a quick update on another piece of latest news that might interest you. Despite all of Bitcoin's successful performance in the past years, and all the good news currently surrounding the asset, JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon maintains his critical stance on Bitcoin, labeling it as a fraudulent investment with no potential to serve as a currency. Interestingly, despite his strong opinions, JP Morgan is involved with BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF. Dimon suggests investors steer clear of Bitcoin, but also acknowledges their freedom to decide. He acknowledges the value of blockchain technology, but remains skeptical about Bitcoin's legitimacy, citing concerns about its potential for illicit activities. Despite his stance, JP Morgan supports clients interested in Bitcoin investments, participating in the iShares Bitcoin Trust. With that, let us return to Michael Saylor as he discusses Bitcoin's bright future.
I think all the marketing wars between the Wall Street firms is going to be positive, and I think the asset's being normalized throughout the mainstream investment community. And so I think it'll just keep generating momentum from here. I think it's also worthwhile, I think, to make one point. I think that we're living through the Bitcoin gold rush era. And I think the Bitcoin gold rush era started January 2024. And I think it runs until around November 2034. So it's about 10 years. And I'll tell you why. because 93.5% or so of the Bitcoin was mined at the beginning of this period. But in November of 2034, 99% of all the Bitcoin that will ever be issued will have been issued. And so that halving is very symbolic. People talk about Bitcoin, issuance coming out over the next 100 years, all the way till 2140. But the truth of the matter is, the last 100 years, you're only getting 1%. So think, and actually, of that 1%, 90 basis points of it is coming in the 12 years that follow 2034, and then it's 10 basis points, 1/10%. But practically speaking, all of the block rewards are de minimis starting in 2034. It's 1% over 100 years may as well be nothing, because the daily volatility and the daily trading volume is going to render that to be somewhere between third order, fourth order, fifth order of magnitude. So that being the case, really, this 10 years is your best chance to get Bitcoin, right? This is the gold rush, because this is the period where there's still a lot of FUD. There's still a lot of uncertainty. People still aren't sure. They don't understand digital energy. They don't understand digital capital. They don't understand digital property. There's a lot of debate in the community. Is Bitcoin a currency, or is it a property? Or, there's massive debate. And a lot of people say, well, it's a currency, and since it's not legal tender, or because it doesn't move fast enough, or I can't buy coffee with it, it's not a good currency. So there's a lot of confusion in the crypto community. There's a lot of mainstream regulators. They think it's a currency. So you see bankers say, oh, it's a currency, but it's not a good currency because I can't buy coffee with it. I can't buy things online with it, and it's too volatile. And they think that's a criticism. And so they criticize it. And then people that think that they know what they're talking about, they hear some famous person say, well, Bitcoin is not a good currency, and or the government will ban it, or it's not as good as the dollar or something. And so they get afraid. And they say, well, then I trust that guy, so I'm not going to buy it. So a lot of people are criticizing it for the wrong reason. A lot of people misunderstand it, and that creates lots of chaos, misinformation, stupid, misleading stories in mainstream media. It creates like bad takes on Twitter. It creates all sorts of confusion amongst Wall Street analysts. And so all of that fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and just basic confusion, and then misunderstanding, that causes a slow growth in demand, right? Like, demand is growing, but imagine how much faster it would be growing if everybody had spent 100 hours, right? Right? The people that criticize it, there's no way Warren Buffett spent 100 hours studying Bitcoin, right? There's not likely that everyone that criticizes it spent 100 hours studying it. They haven't read the Bitcoin Standard. They probably haven't listened to 20, 30, 40 hours of podcasts, right? So the critics are misinformed, and the mainstream investors, they have all the money, right? There's $900 trillion of wealth out there. There's only $1 trillion in Bitcoin. So 99.9% of the money, of the wealth, is not invested, right, in the asset class. So a lot of people that don't understand what this is have a lot of money, and yet we've got a 10-year period when there's going to be an explosive increase in education, right? As Bitcoin's going to go up. And as the price goes up, more people are going to get asked, and they're going to reject. They're like, stop asking me. I hate talking about this. Like, we don't like it because it's like gold. It doesn't generate cash flows, or they don't understand. If you don't understand perfect money, right? What's wrong with gold? Gold has emissions. Gold is inflationary. That's why it doesn't work. If you don't understand that, then you don't understand why digital gold is better than gold. So you don't understand Bitcoin, you don't understand money, and then you haven't really thought very deeply about property theory or capital theory. So you definitely don't understand digital capital, which means you don't understand digital energy. which means that when someone asks you, you're going to buy it, your answer is, of course, I'm not going to buy it. So we're in the gold rush period. People are, when they think about it, they're going to realize this is the period during which everybody in the world started to realize Bitcoin is digital capital, and there's a digital transformation of money, and that you want to hop on top of that. You want to exploit that. And there's 1,000 ways to do it. Maybe it's just work really hard at your job and buy Bitcoin. Maybe it's start a company. Maybe it's do something different. You decide, right? But I don't ever regret any stacking I did. I mean, we bought Bitcoin, below 10,000. We bought Bitcoin probably above 60,000. I mean, at the end of the day, we never know when the world wakes up, gets rational, and then it runs through the all-time high, and then we regret not having bought more. I would encourage anybody that thinks maybe I'm too late. I mean, I think I would say, well, maybe you just haven't studied this enough, right?
What factors do you think will drive Bitcoin's price to new highs in the current market cycle? And how might this impact your investment strategy? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you found some value in today's video, we would appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button. It would help the channel reach more people who need it. Lastly, if you would like to be updated with all of our future updates, please tick that notification bell. Until then, we hope you are having a great day. Stay safe, and we will see you in the next video.